The morning started like any other for Ambassador Taman Park. He sat at his desk on Earth Station 1, drinking his coffee and reading reports from the outer colonies. The blue marble of Earth hung outside his window, peaceful and quiet. He had no idea that everything was about to change. His assistant knocked on the door. "Sir, we have a visitor. Someone from the Galactic Cartographers Guild." Taman looked up from his papers. The guild rarely visited Earth. They were the ones who made maps of the galaxy. Every space route, every trade lane, every safe passage. Between stars, they mapped it all. When they came calling, it usually meant something important. "Send them in," he said. The door opened, and Taman's visitor walked in. It was an alien he had never seen before. The creature looked like it was made of blue crystal, with light flowing through its body like water. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, and it moved with careful steps. "Ambassador Park," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Veltar of the Cartographers Guild. Thank you for seeing me." "Of course," Taman said, standing up. "Please have a seat. What brings you to Earth?" Veltar sat down, but something was wrong. The alien's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. Light danced under its skin in quick, worried patterns. Taman had dealt with many aliens over the years, and he knew the signs of stress when he saw them. "I have come to make a formal request," Veltar said. "The Guild wishes to map the outer regions of human space. We want to complete the Universal Navigation Database." That was strange. Human space was well mapped. Every colony, every station, every shipping route was already recorded. Taman frowned. "Our space is already mapped," he said. "What exactly do you need?" Veltar's light flickered faster. "Not your current territory, Ambassador. The regions beyond your colonies, the unmapped zones, the areas your people call—" He paused, as if the words were hard to say. "The Deep Dark." Taman felt his blood turn cold. The Deep Dark. That was not a name humans used lightly. He kept his face calm, but inside, alarms were going off. "I see," he said slowly. "And why the sudden interest in these regions?" "The Guild has been working on a complete map of the galaxy for 300 years, Veltar explained. "We have mapped every known system, every trade route, every safe passage. But there are gaps, large gaps, and they all seem to be in the areas beyond human space." Taman's mind raced. This was bad. Very bad. He pressed a button under his desk, a silent alarm that would call Hyojin Kim, the Director of Colonial Defense. If anyone needed to hear this conversation, it was her. "Tell me more about these gaps," Taman said, buying time. Veltar leaned forward. "Ambassador, in 300 years of mapping, we have never found a region we could not chart. Never. Our ships can travel anywhere, scan anything, map any system. But when we send expeditions toward the edges of human space, they—" He stopped. "They what?" "They do not come back." The room fell silent. Taman could hear his own heartbeat. Outside, Earth turned slowly in space, peaceful and unaware. "How many expeditions?" Taman asked quietly. 17, Veltar said. "Over the last century. Small scouting ships, advanced survey vessels, even one of our best exploration fleets. All lost. No distress signals. No wreckage found. They simply vanish." The door opened, and Hyojin Kim walked in. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. She had been protecting human space for 20 years, and she knew every threat that existed. When she saw Veltar, her expression became very serious. "Director Kim," Taman said. "This is Veltar from the Cartographers Guild. He was just telling me about some missing expeditions." Hyojin sat down and listened as Veltar repeated his story. Her face showed nothing, but Taman could see the tension in her shoulders. She knew what this meant, just like he did. "And what do you think happened to these expeditions?" Hyojin asked. Veltar's crystal body dimmed. "We do not know. That is why we need your help. Humans are the only ones who have colonies near these regions. You must have some knowledge of what lies out there. Taemin and Hyojin exchanged a look. They had knowledge, all right. They had terrible, secret knowledge that they had spent decades keeping from the rest of the galaxy. We will need to consult with our experts, Taemin said carefully. These are dangerous regions. We have protocols. Protocols? Veltar asked. Safety measures, Hyojin said. The deep dark is not called that for nothing. It is a region of space that requires special preparation to explore. That was putting it mildly, Taemin thought. The deep dark was humanity's greatest secret and greatest burden. It was the reason human colonies were arranged the way they were. It was the reason certain star charts were classified. It was the reason some knowledge was too dangerous to share. We need an experienced explorer to join this discussion, Taemin said. He pressed another button on his desk. Get me Min-Ho Lee, emergency priority. While they waited, Veltar explained more about the Guild's mission. They wanted to create a complete map of the galaxy, with every star system, every planet, every safe route marked and recorded. It was noble work, important work, but some parts of the galaxy were meant to stay unmapped. Min-Ho Lee arrived 20 minutes later. He was an old man, maybe 60, with scars on his hands and a face that had seen too many dark places. He had been exploring space for 40 years, and he was one of the few humans who had been to the edge of the deep dark and lived to tell about it. When he saw Veltar, his expression became very grim. They want to map the deep dark, Hyojin told him quietly. Min-Ho was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Veltar with sad, tired eyes. Young crystal friend, he said, there are places in this galaxy that should not be mapped. There are regions of space that are dark for a reason. The deep dark is one of them. But surely with proper preparation, Veltar began. No, Min-Ho said firmly. Not with preparation. Not with the best ships. Not with the most advanced technology. Some doors should stay closed. Veltar's light flickered with confusion and frustration. I do not understand. You are explorers. You have traveled farther than any other species. How can you be afraid of empty space? Because it is not empty, Min-Ho said quietly. The room fell silent again. Taemin could see that Veltar was getting suspicious. The alien was smart, and he was starting to realize that humans knew more than they were saying. Ambassador Park, Veltar said slowly. What exactly do you know about the regions beyond your space? Taemin made a decision. It was time to end this meeting and call an emergency session of the Colonial Council. Some secrets were too big for one person to handle. We will need time to review your request, he said formally. The regions you want to explore are complicated. We will need to consult with our government and our military advisors. Veltar stood up, his crystal body pulsing with frustrated energy. Ambassador, with respect, this is just a mapping expedition. We are not asking for military secrets or trade information. We simply want to fill in the gaps on our charts. And we understand that, Hyojin said. But these gaps exist for a reason. Give us time to prepare a proper response. After Veltar left, the three humans sat in silence. Finally, Min-Ho spoke. They will not give up, he said. The Guild is persistent. If we deny their request, they will ask questions. If they ask questions, other species will start asking questions too. And if they find out what we have been hiding, Hyojin said, it will be the end of everything. Taemin activated his emergency communicator. The message went out to every human colony, every military base, every government official who needed to know. Emergency Colonial Council session. Priority Alpha. The deep dark situation has escalated. Convene immediately. As Earth turned slowly outside his window, Taemin wondered if they had finally run out of time. For 100 years, humanity had kept the galaxy's greatest secret. They had been guardians without anyone knowing they were guardians. They had protected billions of lives by simply staying quiet. But now the Cartographers Guild wanted to map the unmappable. And if they succeeded, the consequences would be beyond imagination. The deep dark was called that for a reason, and that reason was about to become everyone's problem. New Busan Station was the largest human structure in space. It floated between Earth and Mars, a massive wheel of metal and glass that housed the Colonial Council. Ships came and went from its docks every hour, carrying people and cargo across human space. But today, the station felt different. Today it carried the weight of a secret that could destroy everything. So Young Choi sat at the head of the council table. She was 78 years old, the oldest member of the Colonial Council. Her hair was white, her hands were wrinkled, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She had lived through the worst days of human history in space. She remembered things that others tried to forget. Around the table sat 20 other council members. They had come from across human space in just 12 hours. Some looked confused. Others looked worried. A few looked scared. They all knew that emergency sessions meant trouble, but none of them knew how much trouble. "Thank you all for coming so quickly," So Young said. Her voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "What I'm about to tell you will change how you see our place in the galaxy. Some of you will wish you had never heard these words." She pressed a button, and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the center of the table. It showed a map of human space with all the colonies and stations marked in blue dots. "This is what the galaxy knows about us," So Young said. "Our territory, our colonies, our trade routes, simple and clean." She pressed another button. The map changed. Now it showed red zones beyond the blue dots, large areas of space marked with warning symbols and question marks. "This is what we have never shown them," she said. "The deep dark, the silent zones, the places we tell our pilots never to go." Dong-Hyun Kim raised his hand. He was the youngest, council member, only 35 years old. He represented the newer colonies, the ones on the edge of human space. "Councillor Choi," he said, "I have heard stories about the deep dark, but I thought they were just stories to keep pilots from getting lost." So Young smiled sadly. "No, Dong-Hyun, they are not stories. They are warnings." She turned to another man at the table. "Jae-wook, please show them the records." Jae-wook Han was the chief military historian. He was a thin man with tired eyes who spent his days reading old reports that most people were not allowed to see. He stood up and activated his own holographic display. "What you are about to see is classified at the highest level," he said. "This information has been kept secret for over 100 years. The display showed a timeline. It started in the year 2157, when humans first began exploring beyond their home system. In the beginning, we explored everywhere," Jae-wook said. "We were young and brave and stupid. We thought space was empty, waiting for us to fill it. We were wrong. The timeline moved forward. 2164, first dead system discovered. 2171, contact with the drifter hulks. 2183, the Silent Expanse expedition. 2184, emergency colonial directive. 1. Tell them about the first dead system," So Young said quietly. Jae-wook nodded. "In 2164, the exploration ship Pioneer found a star system with no life. No planets with atmosphere. No signs that anything had ever lived there. But there were structures. Massive structures orbiting the dead star." The display showed images. Huge metal shapes, bigger than cities, floating in space. They were dark and cold with no power signatures, no signs of life. "At first we thought we had found ancient ruins," Jae-wook continued. "Evidence of a dead civilization. We sent teams to explore. What we found was disturbing. More images appeared. The inside of the structures. Corridors that went on for miles. Rooms filled with strange machines. And everywhere signs of a sudden violent end. Whatever lived there had been advanced. More advanced than us. But something had killed them all in a single moment. The structures were intact, but everything inside was gone." "Gone how?" asked Bora Park, a council member from the Mars colonies. "Turned to dust," Jae-wook said. "Every living thing, every organic material, every piece of DNA, just dust, as if something had reached into every cell and turned off life itself." The room was quiet. Several council members looked sick. "But that was just the beginning," So Young said. Show them the drifter hulks. The display changed again. This time it showed massive ships floating in empty space. They were kilometers long, made of materials that human science could not identify. They drifted without power, without purpose, without life. We found hundreds of them, Jawook said. Ships from dozens of different species, all dead, all empty, all heading away. From the same direction. Away from what? Donghyun asked. The silent expanse, So Young said. The heart of the deep dark. Yoon-soo Park, the council's chief scientist, stood up. She was a woman in her 50s who studied alien life forms. Her face was pale as she looked at the images. I have spent 20 years studying the remains we found in those ships, she said. The species were all different. Some were water breathers. Some breathed methane. Some did not breathe at all. But they all died the same way. How? Asked several council members at once. Their consciousness was simply removed, Yoon-soo said. Their bodies were intact. Their brains were undamaged. But the thing that made them alive, the spark that made them think and feel and dream, was gone. Taken. The room fell silent again. Outside the station's windows, normal space traffic continued. Cargo ships and passenger liners moved between planets carrying people who had no idea what horrors existed beyond their safe, mapped routes. This is why we stopped exploring in certain directions, So Young said. This is why our colonies form a barrier around the inner galaxy. This is why we have never shared our complete star charts with other species. She stood up and walked to the window. Earth was visible in the distance, blue and peaceful. In 2183 we sent our best exploration ship into the silent expanse, she said. The ISS Horizon. Captain Nam was commanding, 500 crew members, the most advanced ship we had ever built. What happened to them? Donghyun asked, though he probably did not want to know the answer. They sent one message, So Young said. Just 4 words. The Watchers are stirring. Then nothing. We never found the ship. We never found the crew. We never found any trace that they had ever existed. Jawook activated another display. This one showed human colony patterns over the last century. The colonies formed a rough circle around the inner galaxy, with no settlements beyond a certain line. After the horizon disappeared, the colonial authority made a decision, he said. We would become guardians. We would settle in a pattern that would keep other species away from the dangerous regions. We would never tell them why. We became the galaxy's protectors without them knowing it, So Young said. Every human colony, every trade route, every military base, they are all positioned to create a buffer zone, to keep the galaxy safe from what lies in the deep dark. Won Ho Kim, a military representative, raised his hand. What exactly is out there? What are we protecting the galaxy from? So Young returned to her seat. She looked older now, as if telling the story had aged her. We do not know, she said. We call them the Watchers, the Devourers, the things that end. But we do not know what they are. We only know what they do. They consume consciousness, Yoon-soo said. They take the life force from entire civilizations. They turn thinking beings into empty shells. And they are drawn to activity, to exploration, to the light of discovery. The more we look for them, the more they notice us, Jawook added. The drifter hulks we found were all exploration ships. The dead systems were all advanced civilizations that had spread too far, explored too much. Donghyun leaned forward. So we have been hiding from them for a century? Not hiding, So Young said firmly. Protecting. Every year we do not explore. The deep dark is another year that billions of beings across the galaxy continue to live and think and dream. We carry this burden so they do not have to. The room was quiet for a long time. Outside, a passenger ship launched from the station's dock, heading for the Jupiter colonies. Normal life continued while the council members absorbed the terrible truth. Finally, Donghyun spoke again. And now the Cartographers Guild wants to map the unmappable. Yes, So Young said, and if they succeed, if they wake the Watchers, if they draw attention to the inhabited galaxy. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. What do we do? One Ho asked. So Young looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. Some were young, some were old. Some were scared, some were determined, but all of them understood the weight of the secret they now carried. We do what we have always done, she said. We protect the galaxy, even if they never know we are doing it, even if they never thank us for it, even if it costs us everything. The meeting continued for 6 more hours. Plans were made, resources were allocated, messages were sent to military commanders and colony governors across human space. The galaxy's guardians were preparing for their greatest test, and somewhere in the deep dark, ancient things stirred in their sleep, sensing the approach of new explorers who did not know the rules of survival in the space between stars. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of the Cosmic Surveyor, watching the stars through the main view screen. 3 weeks had passed since his meeting with the humans, and they still had not given him an answer. The Cartographers Guild was getting impatient. Captain, said his first officer, a green-skinned Zeltari named Kexalon, we are approaching the boundary of human space. Should we wait for their permission? Veltar's crystal body flickered with frustration. The Guild has waited long enough. We have a job to do. These humans think they can keep the galaxy incomplete. Forever. The Cosmic Surveyor was the Guild's finest exploration ship. It carried a crew of 25 beings from 12 different species. They had the best mapping equipment, the most advanced sensors, and the strongest shields. If anyone could explore the unknown regions beyond human space, it was them. Set course for the unmarked zones, Veltar ordered. We will complete our mission with or without human help. The ship turned toward the deep dark, its engines humming with power. None of the crew knew they were flying toward the greatest danger in the galaxy. Far away on Harmony Station, alarms began to sound. Commander Sang-Woo Lee was drinking coffee in his office when the alerts started. Harmony Station was humanity's farthest outpost, a small base on the edge of human space. It was also the last line of defense against the deep dark. Commander, his communications officer called out. Long-range sensors are picking up an alien vessel. It's heading directly for the silent expanse. Sang-Woo dropped his coffee cup. The hot liquid splashed across his desk, but he did not notice. Are you sure? Confirmed, sir. It's the Cosmic Surveyor, the Cartographers Guild ship that visited Earth 3 weeks ago. Sang-Woo ran to the command center. The main screen showed a radar display with a single blinking dot moving toward the red zone. The red zone that no human ship had entered for 50 years. How long until they reach the boundary, he asked. 4 hours, sir, replied his sensor operator, a young woman named Jisoo Park. Get me Admiral Woo Jin Park at Fleet Command. Priority 1. While they waited for the connection, Sang-Woo called his science officer. Dr. Eugene Seo was a thin man with nervous hands who had spent his whole career studying the deep dark from a safe distance. Doctor, they're heading straight for the ossuary. Fields, Sang-Woo said. What's the worst that could happen? Eugene's face went pale. Commander, the ossuary fields are where we found the drifter hulks. If they get close to those ships... What? The hulks still have active systems. Not life support or engines, but something deeper. Something that responds to the presence of living minds. If a ship full of explorers gets too close... Sang-Woo felt his stomach turn cold. They could wake up whatever killed the original crews. Or worse, Eugene said quietly. They could become beacons. Signals that tell the watchers where to find new prey. The connection to Fleet Command finally came through. Admiral Woo Jin Park appeared on the screen. He was a stern man with gray hair and tired eyes. Commander Lee, the Admiral said. I assume this is about the Guild ship. Yes, sir. They're heading for the ossuary fields. We need to stop them. Negative, the Admiral said firmly. We cannot use force against peaceful explorers. It would cause a diplomatic incident. But, sir, if they reach the silent expanse, send them warnings. Tell them the region is dangerous, but do not fire on them. That is an order. The connection ended. Sang-Woo stared at the blank screen, then turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the Cosmic Surveyor. Channel open, sir. Cosmic Surveyor, this is Commander Lee of Harmony Station. You are heading toward a restricted area. Turn back immediately. Veltar's voice came through the speakers. Commander Lee, we are in international space. We have every right to explore unmapped regions. The regions you're entering are unmapped for a reason, Sang-Woo said. There are dangers out there that you cannot imagine. We are well equipped to handle any dangers, Veltar replied. We have explored unknown space for 300 years. We know what we are doing. No, Sang-Woo said quietly. You really don't. But the Cosmic Surveyor continued on its course, ignoring all warnings. Captain Kyung-Hwa Moon received the emergency call while her patrol ship Seoul's Pride was conducting routine exercises near the asteroid belt. She was a career military officer with 20 years of experience protecting human space. Captain, her communications officer said, Harmony Station is requesting immediate assistance. The guild ship is approaching the silent expanse. Kyung-Hwa knew what that meant. She had read the classified reports. She knew about the Watchers, the dead systems, and the terrible fate of the ISS Horizon. Set course for the boundary, she ordered. Maximum speed. Should we arm weapons, Captain? No, we are not going to fight them. We are going to try to save them. The Seoul's Pride raced through space, but it was too far away. By the time they reached the boundary, the Cosmic Surveyor would already be in the deep dark. On the bridge of the Cosmic Surveyor, the crew was excited. They were about to explore regions that no one had ever mapped. They would be famous throughout the galaxy. Captain, the navigator said, we are crossing into the unmapped zone now. Veltar felt a thrill of discovery. This was what he lived for. The excitement of finding new worlds, new systems, new routes through space. Begin full sensor sweeps, he ordered. I want everything recorded. The ship's powerful sensors reached out into the darkness, searching for planets, asteroids, anything worth mapping. What they found was much more than they expected. Captain, the sensor operator called out, I'm reading massive structures ahead, hundreds of them. Artificial structures? Yes, sir. They appear to be ships. Very large ships. Veltar's crystal body began to glow with excitement. Ancient ruins! This is the discovery of the century. Take us closer. The Cosmic Surveyor moved, deeper into the ossuary fields. Around them, the remains of 1,000 dead civilizations drifted in the eternal darkness. Ships the size of cities, their hulls dark and cold, their crews long gone. This is incredible, Veltar said. Record everything. The guild will want detailed scans of every structure. But as they moved closer to the ancient hulks, something began to change. The dead ships, silent for centuries, started to respond to the presence of living minds. Deep inside the alien vessels, dormant systems began to activate. Lights flickered on in empty corridors. Machines that had been dead for 1,000 years began to hum with power. Captain, the communications officer said, I'm picking up signals from the derelict ships. Very faint, but they're there. What kind of signals? I'm not sure. They're not like any communication protocol I've ever seen. They're more like calls. On Harmony Station, Dr. Eugene Seo watched his instruments with growing horror. The sensors showed energy readings from the ossuary fields, energy that had been dormant for decades. Commander, he called out, the hulks are activating. The Cosmic Surveyor is waking them up. Sang-Woo joined him at the sensor station. How is that possible? The ancient ships respond to consciousness, Eugene explained. The more minds that get close to them, the stronger the response. A single human ship might not trigger much reaction, but the Cosmic Surveyor has 25 crew members from 12 different species. Different types of minds, Sang-Woo realized. Different kinds of consciousness. Exactly. It's like a dinner bell for whatever is sleeping in the deep dark. Aboard the Cosmic Surveyor, Captain Veltar was recording his observations when the first strange transmission came through. Captain, the communications officer said, I'm receiving a message. It's coming from one of the derelict ships. Put it on speakers. The bridge filled with static, and then a voice. It was speaking a language that none of them recognized, but somehow they could understand it. Welcome, travelers, the voice said. Welcome to the feeding grounds. Veltar's crystal body dimmed. What did it say? The feeding grounds. the communications officer repeated. And Captain, the signal is getting stronger. Other ships are responding now. More voices joined the first. Dozens of them, speaking in different languages but all saying the same thing. Welcome to the feeding grounds, come closer, come and join us. Captain, the navigator said, I'm reading movement in the derelict fleet. Some of the ships are changing position. Veltar looked at the main screen. The ancient hulks were slowly turning toward the cosmic surveyor. Ships that had been dead for centuries were moving, aligning themselves like flowers turning toward the sun. This is not possible, he said. Those ships have no power, no life support, no crews. Something is controlling them, the first officer said. Something that wants us to come closer. The voices on the radio grew louder, more insistent. Join us, explorers. Come and see the wonders of the deep dark. Come and feed the eternal hunger. Veltar felt fear for the first time in his long life. The crystal formations in his body began to flicker erratically. Navigator, he said, plot a course back to human space. Now. I'm trying, Captain, but the navigation systems are not responding. Something is interfering with our instruments. The emergency meeting on Earth Station 1 was chaos. Representatives from 12 different alien species filled the conference room, all talking at once. Supreme Coordinator Zixtal of the Cartographers Guild stood at the front of the room, his 4 arms waving in anger. The Cosmic Surveyor has been missing for 5 days, he shouted. Our best ship, our best crew gone without a trace, and the humans refuse to tell us what happened. Ambassador Taemin Park sat at the human delegation table, trying to stay calm. Beside him, Director Hyojin Kim looked like she had not slept in a week. They had spent 5 days trying to figure out what to tell the galaxy without revealing the truth about the deep dark. We have told you everything we know, Taemin said for the 10th time. Your ship entered a dangerous region of space. We warned them not to go there. Dangerous how? Demanded Counselor Grextal, a insect-like being from the hive worlds. Space, pirates, asteroids, solar flares. What exactly makes this region so dangerous that an entire exploration ship vanishes? Taemin exchanged a look with Hyojin. They could not tell the truth. But they also could not keep lying much longer. The region has unusual electromagnetic properties, Hyojin said carefully. Ships that enter often lose communication and navigation. We recommend that no one— Enough, Zixtal interrupted. We are launching a rescue mission. 3 ships fully armed with the best crews in the guild. You cannot stop us. Please, Taemin said, standing up. Do not do this. Some regions of space are meant to be left alone. But the alien representatives were already leaving. They had made their decision. More ships would be sent into the deep dark. After the meeting, Taemin and Hyojin walked quickly to the secure communication room. They needed to contact the Colonial Council immediately. This is getting out of control, Hyojin said as they entered the soundproof chamber. If they send more ships, more crews will die. And eventually they'll start asking questions we cannot answer. Taemin activated the emergency channel. Within minutes, they were connected to New Busan Station and the Colonial Council. The situation has escalated, Taemin reported. The Guild is sending 3 more ships to search for the Cosmic Surveyor. We couldn't stop them without revealing why they shouldn't go. On the screen, So Young Choi looked older than ever. How long until they reach the silent expanse? 2 days, Hyojin replied. Maybe less if they push their engines. Then we have 2 days to decide, So Young said. Do we tell them the truth and risk panic across the galaxy? Or do we let them die and risk even more questions? The decision was postponed until more information could be gathered. But on the edge of human space, worse news was coming in. Colonel Bitnahan commanded the Deep Space Reconnaissance Division, humanity's most secret military unit. Her job was to watch the borders of the silent expanse and report anything unusual. In 30 years of service, she had never seen anything like the reports coming in now. Ma'am, her sensor technician called out. We're reading massive energy, signatures from the ossuary fields. Something big is happening out there. Bitna looked at the long-range scanner displays. The readings showed patterns of activity that had been dormant for decades. Ancient systems were coming online. Dead ships were moving with purpose. "Get me Dr. Shungho Yoon," she ordered. Priority 1. Dr. Yoon was humanity's leading expert on predecessor technology. He had spent his entire career studying the artifacts and wreckage found in the deep dark. If anyone could explain what was happening, it was him. The call came through 20 minutes later. Dr. Yoon's face appeared on the screen, looking worried and tired. "Colonel Han," he said, "I've been monitoring the same readings from my laboratory. The disappearance of the cosmic surveyor has triggered something in the ancient systems." "Triggered what exactly?" "The predecessors left behind more than just ship graveyards," Dr. Yoon explained. "They left warning systems, automated defenses, and protocols designed to contain the threat in the deep dark." Bitna felt her blood run cold. "You mean the ancient ships are not just dead hulks?" "Some of them, yes. But others are guardians. Sentries left behind to watch for signs of the Watchers stirring. And right now, those sentries are sending out alarm signals." Dr. Yoon's laboratory was located on a secret research station hidden in the asteroid belt. For 20 years, he had studied fragments of predecessor technology, trying to understand the civilization that had died fighting the Watchers. The predecessors had been advanced beyond human imagination. They had built ships the size of cities, weapons that could destroy stars, and technology that seemed like magic. But they had all died fighting something even worse. "The translation systems are working overtime," Dr. Yoon told his assistant, a young woman named Dr. Soo-min Lee. "The ancient messages are becoming clearer." On his main screen, alien symbols flowed like water, slowly changing into readable text. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. "Alert. Living vessels detected in ossuary zone. Warning. Watcher response protocols activated. Containment breach probable. Prepare final measures." Dr. Yoon felt sick as he read the messages. The ancient warnings were exactly what he had feared. "The predecessors knew this would happen eventually," he explained to Dr. Lee. "They knew that someday, other species would find the ossuary fields. They prepared for it." "Prepared how?" "They left guardians. Automated systems designed to prevent anyone from waking the Watchers. But if the guardians fail," Dr. Yoon pointed to the last message on the screen. "Prepare final measures." They were willing to destroy everything rather than let the Watchers escape into the galaxy. Back on the edge of human space, General Haewon Kim was mobilizing forces that most of the galaxy did not know existed. Hidden bases came online. Secret fleets received activation orders. For 100 years, humanity had prepared for this day. The general stood in the command center of Guardian Base, a massive military installation built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at control stations, coordinating the movement of ships and resources across human space. "Status report," she ordered. "All barrier stations are online and ready," reported Major Jinwoo Park. "Interference fields are at maximum power." "Deep Strike Fleet is moving into position," added Captain Soo-jin Lee. "Admiral Choi reports ready for containment operations." General Kim nodded. The barrier stations were humanity's greatest secret. Built over decades, they formed a network of installations designed to hide the inner galaxy from the attention of the Watchers. If something in the deep dark woke up and started looking for prey, the barriers would hopefully keep it from finding inhabited worlds. But the barriers had never been tested against a full awakening. "Ma'am," her communications officer called. "Out. We're receiving a transmission from Dr. Yoon's research station." Dr. Yoon's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was grim. "General, I've decoded more of the predecessor messages. The situation is worse than we thought." "How? Much worse?" "The Watchers are not just predators," Dr. Yoon said. "They're explorers. When they consume a civilization, they learn from it. They study its technology, its culture, its knowledge of the galaxy." General Kim felt her stomach drop. "You mean they learn about other civilizations from their victims?" "Exactly. Every species the Watchers consume gives them more information about potential prey. The Cosmic Surveyor carried star charts, navigation data, and information about dozens of inhabited worlds. The implications hit everyone in the command center at once. If the Watchers consumed the Guild crew, they would learn the locations of every major civilization in the galaxy. There's more, Dr. Yoon continued. The ancient messages mention something called the Great Awakening. If too many ships enter the deep dark, if too many minds are consumed at once, the Watchers don't just feed, they expand. Expand how? They spread out from their home in the space between galaxies. They follow the star charts and navigation data of their victims. They hunt down every species, every world, every trace of intelligent life they can find. General Kim stared at the screen. How many ships would trigger this Great Awakening? According to the predecessors, as few as 5 vessels with diverse crews. The Cosmic Surveyor was one. The Guild is sending 3 more. That leaves us very close to the threshold. The command center fell silent. Outside the asteroid base, human ships moved into defensive positions. Across human space, secret installations prepared for war against an enemy that most of the galaxy did not even know existed. Navigator Ji-hoon Park worked frantically at his station, updating evacuation routes for human colonies. Chief Engineer Insu Lee activated the barrier stations, massive machines that would try to hide galactic civilization from the hungry gaze of the Watchers. But everyone in the command center knew the truth. They were preparing to fight an enemy that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. An enemy that consumed consciousness itself. An enemy that turned living beings into empty shells. And somewhere in the deep dark, ancient, things stirred in their sleep. The Watchers sensed new prey approaching. They tasted the thoughts and dreams of 25 beings from a dozen species. And they were hungry. The galaxy's greatest nightmare was about to begin. And only humanity knew it was coming. The 3 Guild rescue ships disappeared on a Tuesday. Admiral Yeon-Soo Choi watched the long-range sensors from the bridge of the New Seoul, humanity's most advanced battleship. The rescue fleet had entered the silent expanse 6 hours ago. For the first 3 hours they had sent regular reports. Then the signals became strange, then they stopped completely. Any word from the other monitoring stations? She asked her communications officer. Negative, Admiral. Harmony Station, Guardian Base, and Deep Watch all report the same thing. The Guild ships went silent at exactly 14:32 Standard Time. Admiral Choi nodded grimly. That made 4 ships and nearly 100 crew members lost to the deep dark. According to Dr. Yoon's research, they were now at the threshold. 1 more ship could trigger the Great Awakening. Ma'am, her tactical officer called out, we're receiving an emergency transmission from Earth. President Kim wants to speak with you directly. The main screen activated, showing President Jun-ho Kim in his office on Earth. Behind him, through the window, the blue planet turned peacefully in space. He looked like a man who had not slept in days. Admiral, the president said, the Galactic Senate is meeting in emergency session. They're demanding answers about the missing ships. Some species are threatening to send military fleets to investigate. How long do we have? Admiral Choi asked. Hours, maybe less. The Andromedan fleet is already mobilizing. If they enter the deep dark with a full battle group, he did not need to finish. A battle group meant 50 ships and thousands of crew members, far more than enough to wake the Watchers completely. Sir, Admiral Choi said, we cannot let that happen. I know. That's why I'm making the hardest decision of my presidency. We're going to tell them the truth. The emergency session of the Galactic Senate was chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive chamber on the neutral world of Concord Prime. Everyone was talking at once, demanding answers, making threats, proposing solutions. Supreme Coordinator Zixtal stood at the central podium, his 4 arms spread wide. 4 ships have vanished without explanation, he shouted. 96 beings from 15 different species gone. And the humans keep telling us to stay away without explaining why. Perhaps the humans are hiding something in those regions, suggested Ambassador Thexra of the Andromedan Empire. Perhaps they do not want us to discover their secret colonies or military bases. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species had suspected that humanity was hiding something beyond their mapped territory. The Andromedan fleet stands ready to investigate, Thexera continued. We will not let our people disappear without answers. That was when President Junho Kim entered the chamber. The hall fell silent as the human leader walked to the speaker's platform. He moved slowly, like a man carrying a great weight. Behind him came Ambassador Taemin Park, Director Hyojin Kim, and several other human officials. Honorable representatives, President Kim began. I come before you today to share a truth that humanity has carried in secret for over 100 years. He activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy, with all known civilizations marked in bright colors. But beyond a certain boundary, the map was dark. You ask, why our maps stop at the edge of human space, he said. You want to know what lies in the regions we call the deep dark? Today, I will tell you. The hall was completely quiet. Every being in the chamber stared at the human president. Beyond our territory lies the greatest graveyard in the galaxy, President Kim continued. The remains of thousands of civilizations that tried to explore too far, too deep into the space between galaxy arms. The display changed, showing images of the ossuary fields, massive dead ships floating in the darkness, cities that had been turned to dust, worlds stripped of all life. These civilizations were destroyed by entities we call the Watchers, beings that consume consciousness itself. They live in the deep void between galaxies, and they are drawn to exploration, to discovery, to the light of intelligent thought. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some representatives stood up, others sat down heavily. A few began speaking in their native languages, translating for their governments. Councillor Sora Park, humanity's senior representative to the Senate, stepped forward. She was an old woman with silver hair and sad eyes. For 100 years, she said, humanity has served as guardians. We have positioned our colonies to create a barrier between the inner galaxy and the deep dark. We have monitored the borders. We have kept the Watchers sleeping. This is impossible, said Ambassador Grextel of the Hive Worlds. Why would you hide this from us? Why keep such a secret? Because knowledge of the Watchers draws their attention, President Kim replied. The more a species knows about them, the more they explore toward the deep dark, the greater the chance of awakening them. Admiral Dong Wook Lee, humanity's highest military commander, activated another display. This one showed the pattern of human expansion over the past century. Every human colony, every trade route, every military base has been positioned for one purpose, he said. To discourage other species from venturing toward the dangerous regions, to keep you safe without you knowing why. But our ships, Zixtal said weakly, the Cosmic Surveyor, the rescue fleet, are lost, President Kim said sadly. Consumed by the Watchers. Their crew's consciousness has been taken, their knowledge absorbed. The Watchers now know the locations of dozens of inhabited worlds. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted questions, demands, accusations. Some called for military action. Others called for immediate evacuation of their worlds. President Kim waited for the noise to die down, then continued. We cannot change what has happened, he said, but we can prevent it from getting worse. The ancient records tell us that if 5 ships with diverse crews are consumed, the Watchers will begin a great awakening. They will spread out from their home in the void, hunting down every species whose location they have learned. How many ships have been lost? Asked Ambassador Thexera. 4, President Kim replied. 1 more and the galaxy as we know it will end. The hall fell silent again. The weight of the revelation settled on every being present. What do you propose? Asked Councillor Velmoth of the Crystal Worlds. President Kim looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from across the galaxy. We propose the Silent Vigil Pact, he said. A joint agreement to maintain the barriers that keep the Watchers sleeping, to share the burden of guardianship that humanity has carried alone for too long. Captain Hyun-Soo Kim, the human Navy's best strategist, stepped forward with a detailed plan. Joint monitoring stations, shared defensive fleets, interference generators, to hide galactic civilization from the Watchers' attention. The maps will remain incomplete, she said. The deep dark will stay uncharted. Some knowledge is too dangerous to possess. Some regions of space are meant to stay empty on our charts. The debate that followed lasted 3 days. Some species wanted to fight the Watchers. Others wanted to flee to distant galaxies. A few accused humanity of making up the whole story. But in the end, the evidence was overwhelming. The images of dead civilizations. The testimony of human explorers who had seen the ossuary fields. The scientific data about consciousness-consuming entities. The Silent Vigil Pact was signed by 127 galactic civilizations. Navigator Minseo Park was the one chosen to update the official galactic charts. She sat at her workstation on New Busan Station, carefully removing details from the maps that would be shared across the galaxy. The regions beyond human space would remain blank. The notation she added was simple. Here there be things that must not be found. Years passed. The joint fleets patrolled the borders of the silent expanse. The barrier stations hummed with power, hiding the inner galaxy from hungry eyes in the void. Children across 1,000 worlds grew up never knowing how close they had come to extinction. And in the deep dark, ancient things dreamed of consciousness and hunger, held in check by the vigilance of unlikely guardians who had learned that sometimes the greatest heroism is in knowing when not to explore. The galaxy was safe, but it was no longer innocent. The price of safety was eternal watchfulness, carried by those who understood that some doors must never be opened, some paths must never be traveled, and some regions of space must remain forever unmapped. Human space marked the edge of safety, not because humans were territorial, but because they were willing to bear the burden of protecting others from truths too terrible to know. The map stopped at human space for a reason, and that reason would keep the galaxy alive.